Marinaro, the Sick Podcast, CF Montreal Talk. We have plenty to talk about. One of the most exciting games of the season actually took place a couple of nights ago on Saturday night in Montreal, with CF Montreal in a Leagues Cup game versus Pumas. Got off to a 2-0 lead on goals by Bryce Duke and Mathieu Choignard, only to see the lead evaporate within a couple of minutes. And in dramatic fashion, they win the game on PK. Speaking of dramatic fashion, how about the biggest soccer star in the world coming to the United States, playing in his first game with his new team and scoring the game winner less than 40 minutes after he was subbed on? That's dramatic fashion. Messi fever has invaded all of Florida. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the Canadians women's national team, of course, at the World Cup in Australia. A disappointing draw in game one, a huge game coming up on Wednesday, and maybe, just maybe, they're going to have their star player back for the game. We'll discuss that. CF Montreal acquired a player a couple of weeks ago. They like him so much, they've extended his contract. What does that all mean? We'll discuss it. That and more, and we'll also preview the game on Wednesday night. Another Leagues Cup game, this time versus Hernan Losada's former club, DC United. I'm Marinaro, the Sick Podcast, CF Montreal Talk. Joining me, Jeremy Filosa of 98.5 FM and EMFC Radio. He's coming up right now.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to the Sick Podcast. CF Montreal Talk.
Here's the chance. They've got the goal. Absolutely incredible. Cameron Porter delivers the goal to send Montreal Impact into the CONCACAF Champions League semi-final.
The sickest CF Montreal podcast. It's gonna be sick.
Jeremy, good Monday afternoon. You know, Jeremy, when CF Montreal plays in games that are not entertaining, we say it. And when they play in games that are entertaining, we say that as well. What a show. What a spectacle on Saturday night. Talk about your best bang for your buck at $29 a ticket. You can't even watch a movie nowadays for that price. Talk to us about Saturday night, Jeremy.
It's incredible. I mean, you just said it. I mean, the ticket prices are so reasonably accessible. And nowadays in 2023, what do you get for $29? Do you even park your car downtown? I don't think so. So the show that we had, first of all, with all the fans in the stands on the Pumas side, but also they lifted, Montreal, CF Montreal fans to give even more in the stadium. So the energy was incredible. And we've said it in the past. Some CF Montreal wins this year were not great to watch. And right now, you dropped the third point late in the game. But at the end of the day, what a show it was. And they still end up getting the win, despite losing a point in the PKs. But I think everybody that left the stadium on Saturday night, including those who had maybe never been to Saputo Stadium, are probably saying to themselves, I can't believe this is my first time here. It was a fantastic evening, all in all.
We'll talk about the dropping a point and getting 2 points for the win instead of 3 points in a couple of minutes' time and discuss what it is that means in Leagues Cup. But before we do, let's take a look at what was the starting 11 for CF Montreal on Saturday night, Jeremy. All right, here you go. You have Sirois, of course, was in goal with a three-man backline as we're accustomed to, with Camacho and Waterman on his right and Corbo on his left. That left wing back, Ariel Lassiter. A right wing back, Zachary Brault-Guillard, and not Aaron Herrera. At CDM, Choignard and Saliba, and not Piet or Wanyama. And of course, you had Opoku and Duke with Olfer just on top of them. And that's the way it looks. So let's keep this up if we can. Your subs, Wanyama, Campbell, Hamdi, Miljevic, Toy, Ibrahim, Lapalainen, Herrera, and Vilsain. Jeremy, a couple of things here. Some people are going to look at this and say, Wanyama wasn't in the lineup. Piet wasn't in the lineup. Herrera wasn't in the lineup. I'm going to give an update here, and I know you have the same information. Herrera was under the weather. Piet wasn't feeling too hot either. And Wanyama, who didn't start for the second consecutive game, was seen hobbling at the end of the game. So clearly he's nursing an injury, Jeremy.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw him leaving the stadium on Saturday night, and he was he was in some big discomfort. He was struggling to put a foot in front of the other. So he's not at training. I'm at Neutral A right now. He's not on the field. Neither is Lassi Lapalainen, by the way. I suspect that Wanyama will either be out for Wednesday or he'll be a sub, maybe, depending on how things go from now till game time. So that's the reason why he hasn't been starting. But the guys who have been there have been doing the job. Samuel Piet did great against Charlotte, and Nathan Saliba maybe had his best game in a CF Montreal uniform, despite the pressure. And he told me himself that it was nerve-wracking to go out there with the crowd and the what was at stake. So, great on him. Aside from that, what can I say? Lassiter, it was already understood that he would go only 45 minutes. He had taken a knock against Charlotte, so he wasn't 100%. That's why Lapalainen came in the second half.
Jeremy, early on in the game, Saliba had the right intentions. He tried a pass, but it went way too far, and it was way off the mark. And I looked at it, and I said, the kid is fighting a little bit of nerves here. And it's only normal because there's a different kind of intensity when you play some of these Mexican teams vis-a-vis these MLS teams, especially when you're playing the games in Mexico. That's a different animal altogether. But the kid settled down, and here's some stats that were gathered at the end of the game. I believe they were tweeted out by Giuseppe Campanelli, who's a contributor to Cannes Football Club. Nathan Saliba stats, 90 minutes, 37 of 44 passes. It's an 84 percentage. 3 of 3 successful dribbles, 3 of 5 accurate long balls, 2 of 2 tackles won, 3 blocks, 3 interceptions, 16 recoveries, 8 of 14 duels won. He got a yellow card. Jeremy, I thought it was by far his best game that we've seen him play in a CF Montreal uniform. We've always talked about it. He's a good player. I've told you on more than one occasion that he was the best player, in my opinion, on that reserve team last year. But he got too much too soon playing as a 10 in game 1. He got a lot of playing time early on. He got burnt a little bit. They were able to remedy the situation because some of the injured players were coming back, and they also realized, hold on a second, to their credit, too much too soon for the kid. Let's take a step back. It took a while. Now we're midway through the season. Now all of a sudden there's 17, 18, 19 games under your belt. Now you can start starting games or playing a little bit more than you did before. And you know what? It's working out. The kid has been very, very good in practice. I get reports that on many, many days, this is the player who's the most impressive in practice. Now, there are some players, Jeremy, who are practice players, who are the best in practice. There are some players who are the best in games. And, of course, there are the best players ever who are the best in practice and in games. But now it's starting to come around. He's very, very good in practice. And I thought he was very, very good in the game on Saturday night. I thought he had a good game the game before that as well. And I thought Nathan Saliba was one of their best players on Saturday night. I liked him.
Yep.
I liked Duke. I thought Duke played a good game. And I thought Choinière played a good game. Those were the 3 players that, in my opinion, stood out a little bit more than everyone else.
Yeah, you're right. I think the midfield did a great job. And, Duke's goal changes everything. The fact that you're able to take that lead. And again, it was the same kind of recipe that we saw early on in the season for CF Montreal, which is not that many great scoring chances, but being opportunistic, putting those opportunities at the back of the net. Montreal scored 2 goals from outside the box in that game, something that they haven't really done all season. They scored a few here and there, but not that many. That makes a difference when you're able to score goals from outside the box on free kicks, like it was the case for Choinière. Obviously, you gotta like what Choinière brings. He's been back 2 games now. In the 2 games, CF Montreal has been back on the winning side of the of things. So that was fantastic. A little bit of disappointment maybe with the entering of certain subs. Like, as you mentioned, Herrera didn't look like himself. He wasn't 100%. Probably had a bug, or that's what we're hearing.
Yeah.
So I didn't find him fantastic in the second half. I think he's a little bit responsible on the second goal. And but then they were able to hold on. And you know what? I think, Tony, at the end of the day, we might be disappointed with losing that 3rd point. But I think had we been told, listen, they're going to beat Pumas, they're going to beat them in a shootout, you'll pick up 2 out of the 3 possible points.
Yeah.
I think pretty much everybody would have said, we'll take that.
Jeremy, I know a lot of people were thinking, here we go again. And by the way, it was a sellout on Saturday night. Here we go again. CF Montreal blows a lead. We've seen this movie before, going back a couple of years. But you know what? It'll make you battle tested. And I think having a close call like that actually ends up serving you well. Look, everything happens for a reason. And the fact that Jonathan Sirois was able to go through the process of penalty kicks in a big game like this is going to be another feather in his cap as well. It's going to help him as well. And you know what? He was good. He stopped the last shot, of course, that Pumas took. Mind you, was a terrible penalty kick. Yes, 100%. But he did stop one. He looks big in his net on penalties. He looks pretty intimidating for a guy who's not 6'4", 6'5", 6'6". So I like that. And by the way, it's rare that you see center backs being so good on penalties. There are some. Bonucci has taken some big penalties for the Italian national team in the past. But man, do I love the way Rudy Camacho takes penalties. Ice in his veins.
Absolutely.
He goes top all the fantastic.
And you know what? And he's the first guy to shoot, and he leads the way. That goal he scored, there was no doubt. There was no doubt. And the guys that followed him, it looked like he gave the guys behind him that confidence to go up there and do the same. And CF Montreal, I got to say, for the longest time, every time they end up in a PK situation, they find a way to pick the right guys to go up there. Camacho is not the first time. Remember, Daniel Lovitz was a shooter also in the past. So it seems like it's a thing for Montreal to go with these guys. Corbo comes from Italy. They practice this all the time. Again, looked like he had ice in his veins. Choinière had just scored a great goal, a lot of confidence stepping up. The one guy I was a little surprised with, Tony, I got to say, when Lapalainen went on to close the game, and he had been away. He had been, injured for the last 2 months.
Yeah.
He had also on a couple of occasions where you had great opportunities to find the back of the net in open play, missed some chances. So I was very surprised to see him there. But just as the three first shooters did, he went up there, ice in his veins. None of the shots gave the keeper any chances at all.
Jeremy, today is going to be a very, very positive SIG podcast because every right to be. But, if things are working out for one young player, Nathan Saliba, they're not quite working out for another young player in Sean Ray. And I think we have to tackle it all because, he was MIA on Saturday night. He's not there. He's not there in the starting 11. He's not there as a substitute.
Right.
And look, whether it has something to do with it or it doesn't, let's be honest, Sean Rea has not had a lot of minutes ever since he was subbed off in the 93rd minute after being subbed on in the 71st. And he looked at Losada and he's like, why? What do you? And he wasn't happy with the coach. And whether it's got something to do with it or not, Jeremy, he hasn't had a lot of minutes since then.
Yeah. Listen, I don't like when coaches take one situation and stretch her out forever and ever. Ilias Iliadis, after taking his red card, never played again. Sean Rea, after that situation, much less playing time. So Sean Rea started the year as a starter, as a potential starter. He started many games. Then he went on as a sub. Now he's not even dressed. Think about it, Tony. They preferred to dress 3 keepers, and they kept Rea out of the lineup. So I think this is a question that we're going to have to ask the coach. What's going on with Sean Rea? That'll probably be something that'll come up this week for sure, because he can't improve if he's not playing, if he's not in the lineup. Is there something else, that's missing right now in the information we have? Is there more that meets the eye? I don't know. Maybe there's something else going on behind the scenes. But, yeah, you would
Jeremy,
want to see this guy get some minutes here and there.
This is what we can say, then. With all due respect to Ilias Iliadis, he hasn't shown us to be a full-time MLS player. And as a matter of fact, he doesn't dominate either when he plays in Ligue 1 Quebec. And okay, maybe it's a different fit. It's a different team. It's a different teammates. I get all of that. But he hasn't shown us to be a full-time MLS player. Sean Rea's case, Jeremy, it's a physical league. It's an athletic league. He'd have to build up a little bit more. They play with wing backs. It isn't his favorite position. If they were playing 4-3-3 and they were playing with a left winger and a right winger, there's no problem. But the formation this team plays, it can impede him getting into the lineup every now and then.
Yeah.
And so we just to play, to look at both sides here, we have to say that as well, right? We can't just say, okay,
For sure.
maybe the coach has something ever since he subbed them off, but it's not the ideal formation for him either, Jeremy.
No, I know. You're right. At the same time, listen, a season is long. There are a lot of games. Like if I would be a coach, I would try as much as possible to include everyone and to try and find a way to get players some minutes here and there. Now, we weren't exactly sure how we were going to treat this Leagues Cup, but I think the team is taking it very seriously. They tried to start the best players that they thought would give them an opportunity to win. Tony, with the advantage of being able to play most of the games at home in this tournament, you don't really have a choice. Now, with the game on Wednesday against DC United, you need to win at least in a PK situation, either in regulation or PK, and you finish first of your group, and that would be massive, because you would avoid that trip to Philadelphia that you don't want to take. The only way Montreal goes on the road until the final is if they have to face Philadelphia, and there is that possibility that they will face them if they finish second in this group, because Philly will take their group. They've already won 3-1 against Tijuana. They picked up all 3 points. So this game against DC United is massive. It's massive. You got to win this game. And after that, for sure you're going to be avoiding Philadelphia. And, whatever happens after that, the path is open. Maybe even to a semifinal against Messi in Miami here in Montreal.
We're going to talk about that in just a second, but not before we do. A contract extension earlier this morning announced by the club.
Yeah, so Opoku has signed a new contract. He will be with Montreal till the end of 2026, option for 2027. He was making $257,000. We have to expect that amount is going to jump up as of this year. We don't have the exact amount right now. The Players Association will make it available sometime from now till the end of the season when they release the second slates of salaries. So expect a pay increase for him right away. I remember when I spoke to his agent, him saying that negotiations were going to start quickly after the trade would happen. This is modus operandi for Montreal. They pick up young players, they give them salary increases, they sign them long term. And, according to what his agent told me, the plan right now, approximately, is to have him around here for 18 months, more or less, give or take, depending on his performances.
Yeah, and the GAM money that Montreal paid to LAFC, they went to get Gonzalez, of course, who's a striker, who was playing in Belgium on loan from Braga, who had a great season in Portugal a couple of years ago, where I believe he had scored 15 goals in 27 games, coming off a great season in Belgium. And so they're able to add a quality striker. So, you know what? A deal that worked out for both teams, basically. Montreal gets Opoku. LA gets the GAM money. With the GAM money, they're able to go out and buy a player, another striker who replaces him. Everyone's happy. All right, okay. You talked about Lionel Messi. Last week when we did this, we talked about, is Messi going to get on? Is he going to play? I know you thought maybe he'll get 15 minutes. I thought he would get a little bit more than that. It seems we were both wrong, because he got 40 minutes in. He was subbed on at minute 54, a game that LeBron James came out to watch. Kim Kardashian came out to watch. Mark Anthony was there. The who's who of Miami, of the United States, of the world was there to watch Lionel Messi. Yeah. Tickets, by the way, which average about $24 or $25 for that game, we're averaging $400 more than that. Messi Mania has kicked in all of Florida. Everyone is sporting a pink Inter Miami number 10 Lionel Messi jersey. And Jeremy, great players can do things when you want them to do things. And when Lionel Messi is fouled 10 yards outside the box at the 92nd minute, and he lines up around about a minute later to take that free kick, everyone in that stadium was hoping for Messi to bend it like Beckham with David watching And that's exactly what he did.
It's unbelievable. You know what? He's done so many great things in his career, and this might just seem like one other game, but this, under the pressure of starting in the MLS, the pressure that comes with signing a deal with Apple TV, with Adidas, and to coming to a completely new, different market, and to do that, to close the game on a free kick like that, which was precisely placed, top bins. It was absolutely incredible. I mean, Apple TV and the MLS could not have scripted that any better. And those images of Apple TV that went around the world, I think we're at 35 million views only for the English play-by-play version. And it doesn't even include the Spanish. Would have been nice even to have some French there. But just to say, they could not have scripted it better, because what Apple TV wants is for people to say, you know what? I got to watch Messi in the MLS. I got to watch Messi with Miami. I got to get myself Apple TV. So, I mean, I don't know how they could have possibly scripted this any better.
Yeah.
And hats off to Messi, because, it was funny because I was watching the game with my wife, and she's like, there's a lot of pressure on this guy, and it better work out on the field. Otherwise, it could be a flop. And look at that. First opportunity to put it away, and incredible.
No flop. He doesn't do anything the rest of the way. It's already a huge success, of course, because of the buzz he's brought to Florida, the MLS, and the entire United States leading up to the World Cup.
And the League's Cup. And the League's Cup.
And the League's Cup. Now, Jeremy, he had 40 minutes to study the entire situation. He realized early on he's playing with players who, with the exception of Busquets, are not on his level in terms of thinking the game, that he's seeing it. He's tracking. He's taking all kinds of information. He monitored the entire situation. He realized in this game, under intense heat, by the way, he realized that the way I'm going to have to score this game is I'm going to set myself up in a certain position. If I don't get fouled, I break three. If I do get fouled, I take a free kick from where I want to take it. He knew where he was going. He looked for the foul. He went down so that the call would be made. He actually placed the ball back about a foot or two to more of his favorite spot. The second this guy took it, he knew he was going to score. I'm going to take it a step further and say even before he took it, he knew he was going to score. What did it look like from the stands, Jeremy? Let's take a look. That's amazing, Jeremy. And so
incredible.
Lionel Messi worth the price of admission. And if there are people out there who were able to secure tickets to watch a Messi game in a really good section, very close to the field, they must be pretty happy right now, because the value can only go up. All right. Okay, Jeremy. Busquets, I thought, was awesome as well.
Yeah.
Alba's going to be joining the team very shortly. There's also talk of Luis Suarez. Gremio wanted a $70 million buyout clause. Then we're hearing they're going down to $15 million. Now we're hearing he might go. He might be released of that clause for maybe not much. All right. In ending.
Yep.
Wednesday night versus DC United is the next Leagues Cup game for CF Montreal, and the Canadians women's national team is looking for some help on Wednesday. They might get it in the name of Jesse Fleming.
Yeah, so listen, the game is at 7 a.m., so wake up early to watch Team Canada on Wednesday morning against Republic of Ireland. They've moved to Perth now. They've made the trip. The good news is, as you mentioned, is Jesse Fleming has trained with the team, is looking good, and maybe ready to go. She's had 2 full sessions. We talked last week about the difficulties they have creating scoring chances. She will definitely help with that. If she is able to start, I think if she is able to start, and it's probably going to be a game time decision, then probably St. Clair starts on the bench. If not, St. Clair gets the start. Maybe she comes in as a sub. I don't know. But this is a huge 3 points here for Canada. They need to pick up the 3 points here with the tie against Nigeria if they want to give themselves a chance of moving forward. It's not going to be easy, but I think the return of Fleming, and I think, listen, Tony, what do you got to lose at this point, right? I mean, even if she's not 100%, you need her on the field. Because if you lose this game, you're pretty much done.
She's a fantastic player, Jeremy. No doubt about it. Speaking of fantastic players, everyone knows that Christine Sinclair has had an amazing career. But at one point in your career, and especially your age, the law of physics kicks in, and you end up becoming a better off-the-bench player because what you have is still there, but you can't sustain it over the course of an entire game. So I think it would work out well if Sinclair was actually to be available off the bench. I think it would be better for her and she would be more effective. I think we covered all the bases, Jeremy. Thanks for chiming in live from Centre Nutrilait. Jeremy Filosa of 98.5 FM and EMFC Radio. I'm Marinaro. Wednesday night, Leagues Cup. Be there. It's worth it. Ciao for now.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast, CF Montreal Talk on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.